A little bit nervous, but also excited to be able to do this for all of you widows out there. Um, so, just to kind of give it a little bit of a front story, I was doing Facebook Lives every week inside my widow group called Widow Rising. And because Facebook had changed some of their policies around how long you can keep a Facebook Live in the group, and now it's only for 30 days, I decided to come on YouTube and be able to do that here. And I think it's actually a great way for us to also have one area where you can find all of the episodes of Widow to Widow Live, and it's a lot easier for widows to find and come back to as reference whenever you need it. So, for those of you that are part of my group, the previous Widow to Widow lives are coming. We are working on downloading them and putting them inside Facebook, and we'll have it in a playlist called Widow to Widow Live, and so you'll see all of that in there. But for now, this will be the first one. So thank you all for joining, and I hope you find the information valuable. Today I'm talking about when you're ready, how do you lovingly go through your husband's things? Or if you're a widower, your wife's things, right? Because I know it's not easy. I know for me, when I first lost Frank, right away, I was looking at some of the things that I can give to my kids, to Frank's siblings, to his mom and dad, to his best friends. And I did do that. Like, I wanted people to have a piece of Frank right at the beginning. So that was something that I did right away. But there was still so much stuff of Frank's that I held on to. And to be honest with you, the last few remaining things that I did keep of Frank's, I held on to for 5 years. And when I think back now, I'm like, why did I do that? And what purpose did it serve me? Right? And so, all of our journeys are going to be unique and individual, and I want you guys to know that do it when you're ready and not any time before that. If you feel like sometimes, maybe I'm holding on to this stuff and it's keeping me stuck, then we can have a conversation about that and see where you're going with that, right? So I want to talk about or I'm talking to those of you that are ready, right? So if you are ready, let's first start off with, how do we do this, right? Well, you start off small. You do it one step at a time, right? One step at a time. So instead of tackling like everything all at once, maybe choose a category of things: his shoes, his shirts, his ties, his jewelry, maybe some of his big boy toys, or one drawer at a time, maybe, or even just one item at a time. Like, don't make it so that it's overwhelming for you, right? So begin as small as you need to, and then start working through that, right? This will prevent a lot of overwhelm for you. I like to say, start with neutral items, right? So like I said, clothing, maybe books or tools, things that you know that you're not going to use. Before you start moving into more sentimental things like his wedding band, the cards that he gave you, love notes, maybe his favorite chair. Like, Frank had a favorite recliner, and we literally kept that recliner till I think it was like no good anymore. Like, we didn't even recline, but like the kids and I loved that recliner. It was a huge one, and Frank loved it. He would sit on it with the grandkids, and to be honest with you, like, if him and I wanted to watch TV together, we could kind of fit on it. It was a little bit snug, but it was that wide that it could literally fit both of us on there, just a little bit snug. Like I said, was really good for him and the grandkids, and he just absolutely loved it, and the girls loved it as well, right? So the sentimental things, like, don't worry about getting rid of those things or even parting from them if you don't want to, right? Like, just hold on to that and start off with more neutral stuff. The other thing that I found to be very helpful was to kind of like separate things into categories, right? So things that you want to keep, things that you want to donate, and then maybe even like an undecided pile, right? Because you're not too sure yet what you want to do with those things. And when you do it that way, it can help you to really kind of move through that process again with less overwhelm, right? So the first thing is always to set an intention before you start sorting through his things. Make sure that you are mind, body, and soul physically ready to do this. The other thing that I found helpful for me was I had my girls come and help sort through things with me so that I wasn't doing it by myself. And it really did become like a thing. My son would come over every so often, but it really did become like a family time where we were going down memory lane. Right, Mom, look at this. Do you remember this card that I gave to Dad? Or I'd show it to them. I'm like, Kina, do you remember this? Like, she was like, oh my gosh, did I draw that? I'm like, yeah, you always used to draw pictures for your dad or give him cards, things like, and he held on to everything, right? So like a lot of those things, like I gave to my daughter. I'm like, here, you can have this, right? These are your sentimental value of things, memories that, you know, that were connecting you and your dad, like that relationship. And so you can do things like that, right? Again, don't put any pressure on yourself. Do this when you're ready. And, you know, like me, if it helps, gather your family, gather your kids to do this with you so that you're not doing it by yourself. Allow the human emotions to come as well. There's going to be moments of reminiscing. There's going to be moments of tears that will come. And let that happen. And if something feels a little bit overwhelming or triggers you, like put that in the undecided pile, right? Or in the keep pile, right? And don't worry about like going over those things right then and there. Like move through again the neutral things. The other thing you can do is repurpose. Gosh, Frank had a ton of t-shirts. And so we took a lot of those t-shirts and we turned them into pillowcases. And so like his mom and dad both have a pillow with Frank's shirts that we turned into a pillowcase, my grandchildren, and then also turning them into a blanket, right? And so that was another thing too. You can turn them into quilts. Like there's so many things that you can do with this stuff. I have a friend that turned her husband's t-shirts into making a teddy bear, right? And stuffing it and making a teddy bear. So you can do that as well. So you can get creative. Like in this day and age, there's so many things that you can do. There's my mother-in-law has like this huge shadow box in her house. Her daughter did it for her. So I gave her one of Frank's correction officer uniforms, and there's a few other things that I had given her, and my sister-in-law was able to take all of that and really put it nicely in a shadow box, and my mother-in-law literally has that in her bedroom. So you can do that with things that you want to keep, and you don't necessarily want to just keep it stuffed up in a jewelry box or in a container or a box, and you want to kind of display it as a way to honor your husband, again, or your wife if you're a widower. Like you could do that too, right? And so you can have a shadow box, right? That's up there that has some of the sentimental things that you want to keep. There's also this thing called repurposing jewelry, and you can do that as well. I remember researching that at one point because I was going to do that with my wedding band and Frank's wedding band and repurpose it into another piece of jewelry. I think I was going to turn it into a pendant and wear it on my neck. I didn't end up doing that because my youngest daughter, ended up getting married, and you know her dad wasn't there to walk her down the aisle. So she actually asked for the rings, and I thought it was like she only asked for one of the rings, I think her dad's ring. And I'm like, you know, you can have my ring too, like so you guys don't have to go out and buy rings. And she just loved that idea, and it was really a great way for her and her husband to really be connected, right, to her dad. And so I really, really loved that idea. So you can do that as well. I think there's a widow inside my group that has done that too, given her husband's wedding band to her son to wear. So it could be jewelry that is passed down, right? But if not, the repurposing is a really nice way to keep jewelry that belonged to him, but repurpose it to fit your identity in this life now, or maybe something that you can give to your kids, right, later on. And so that's another idea, right? That's another idea. You know, again, do it when you're ready, and do it when you're not so overwhelmed, right? When you're not so overwhelmed. There is no timeline for this to happen. Like I said, I kept my husband's things for like 5 years, at least the majority of it at the very end. Giving items, special items, a purpose. So for example, if he had like a favorite mug, right? You can use that mug for yourself, right? Or maybe use it on your desk, right? Maybe you don't want to use it to drink coffee because maybe you don't drink coffee. Like you can use it on your desk to like hold all of your pens and pencils and markers, and that way you always have this cup on your desk to look at when when you're working, and it'll remind you of your husband. It'll keep him close. Um, Frank had one of his favorite sweaters. It was actually a sweater that had some airbrushing on it, custom airbrushing that his cousin did, and man, it was one of his prized possessions. And one of my daughters asked for it, and she wears it like all the time. And then just not too long ago, I was on a FaceTime with my granddaughter, and she was wearing it. I was like, oh my gosh, that's your Papa's sweater. Like it looks so cute. It was a little bit baggy on her, right? A little bit big, but it looks so cute on her. And I just, like, it really warms my heart when I see that, right? Because I know that they all miss him. I know that they still honor him in all their little ways that they do, but it's always nice to see that when I'm connecting with them, right? And so you could do that as well, right? Instead of storing it away, use it. Like I used to use his t-shirts all the time to go to sleep. I had a few of them, right? Because Frank was much bigger than me. And so I used had a few of his t-shirts that I would use as my pajamas, right? So that kept him close to me. So doing things like that, right? But I always love to see when I gave things to like my son, or his nephews, his brother, his nieces, his nephews, like all of that. Like it was really nice to see them using some of the things that I gave them, and it was just just really validated the impact that Frank made on other people's lives, right? And so I'm gonna guess that your husband or your wife probably had an impact in other people's lives too, right? And so it brings comfort and warmth, right, to your heart when you can see them wearing some of the things that you gave them, right? Books, tools, like you can pass those down, right? Generations. A lot of my husband's books went to one of my daughters. His CDs, CD, showing our age, but those were all passed down to my son, got some of them. And then his best friend, who shared the same love for music, got a lot of that as well. And Frank just, man, he had a lot of things. And so like giving things away, it didn't even feel like I really gave anything away because I still had so much stuff, right? But you can also think about like setting up a section in your house. Like we did that as well. So I kept Frank's urn at home for like 3 years before we decided to put the urn in a cemetery. But he was at home for 3 years, and so we had a nice shelf, and on that shelf, like everything was memorabilia, like all things Frank, right? Whether they were pictures, whether it was like one of them was like his badge, correction officer badge, his ID when he worked at Homeland Security. Like, so there was like several things that we had up on the shelf together with his urn, and that was like our place to just like look and honor him and just keep him like close to us, right? And so that helped us as well. So you can have that, taking a lot of the pictures. Like I had a friend that took a bunch of our pictures that she found on my Facebook page, and she put it into like a really big, actually it was three big collages of pictures, and she gave that to us at Frank's first anniversary. And God, that was such a beautiful gift to have that, right? Because I didn't think of doing that. My nephew put together a video, a collection of pictures, and we had that as well. So there's so many things that you can do. And again, because of the digital space that we live in, there's so much creative ways that you can do things with your spouse's items so that it still can be integrated in your life. But then when you're ready, right? When you're ready, you can donate a lot of those out. So the last of Frank's things, I donated out. I donated it to the first container of stuff. I think it was like 2 containers, which I had at my mom's house, which was a lot of like Frank's leftover like shoes, boots, and just like clothes that like maybe the kids didn't want. Like my son was a lot smaller than his dad, so he couldn't fit his clothes. My son-in-law a little bit closer to my husband's size, and so I gave him whatever he wanted there. He took like a lot of the like the nice dress up shirts and the suits and things like that. But like a lot of the things that were left, like were like maybe shorts, jeans, things like that. And so my dad has, a bunch of friends that he hangs out with that, are always like, they love secondhand things. And I just wanted to give it to people that I know would use it and would, they know Frank, and I just felt like they would honor him in that way. And so I gave it to my dad and said, hey, give it to your friends. Like, they all showed up at Frank's funeral. They all showed up at the first anniversary. Like, they've always been there for us. And I know that, they're not as fortunate as some other people. So I would love for them to have that, like, to be able to use some of Frank's things and to benefit from it, right? They were blessed with it. And so I did that. And then there was another container of things that that didn't work out for them, like whatever they didn't want. And so we donated that to a charity for people that are, again, less fortunate, that didn't have things. When Frank was alive, and we used to have, like, every so often, maybe once or twice a year, we'd have like a yard sale. And Frank was one of those guys, he's like, I'm not getting rid of any of my stuff. you know, Sometimes he'd like give me one or two items, but man, there were always guys looking for items. Like, it was so crazy. Now we'd be like, babe, like, we could totally sell like a lot of your stuff that you don't use, because guys are looking for jeans, they're looking for camouflage pants, they're looking for boots, or worn out shoes, because they use it like to work in the yard or things like that. So they're using for like used things, right? So that they're not brand new things, like things that they can use for like yard clothes or whatever. But Frank was just one of those guys that just like liked to hold on to his stuff, but he really did take care of it. And he's like, babe, I do not want these guys to be using my stuff to clean their yard or whatever, right? And so we didn't really get rid of his stuff in that way, but I love that we were able to donate it out, again, to people that were in need. And so we didn't sell it, we gave it away, and that filled my heart, because Frank was always a giver in other aspects, not maybe his clothes, but he was always a giver in other ways, right? So I found that to be a great way to honor him. Yeah, and so those are just some of the ways that you can do this project when you're ready, right? So just know that grief is not linear, and neither is decluttering, right? So some days you'll feel strong enough to let it go, and other days you'll need to hold on. And I want you to know that both of those are okay, right? You make that okay for you. So, here's something that you can do, right? So after decluttering, make sure you do something soothing for yourself, and permit yourself to just pause and feel whatever you need to feel in that moment. If you've ever watched Marie Kondo on Netflix, and I think she might have some stuff on YouTube as well, she always talks about that, like when you're decluttering and things that we have, like we do build a relationship with them, whether you want to admit it or not. We do, like, we hold on to things, we cherish things, right? They have a lot of memories, whether it's a piece of clothing, a piece of jewelry, a book, cards from before that people have given you, like they all have some sort of sentimental value to you. And so letting these things go is going to bring up human emotions. Yeah, it absolutely will. So be kind to yourself. Know that if it does bring up a lot of emotions, that emotions is energy in motion, and so it can bring a lot of exhaustion to you. So rest, take a break, drink some hot tea, maybe some chamomile tea at the end of that experience, and just allow yourself to unwind after all of it. And again, one drawer at a time, one item at a time, one section at a time. Don't feel like you have to do it all at once, and only do it when you're ready. All right, thank you so much. I hope you found this valuable. Let me know in the comments what you like best about this video. And if you're not subscribed yet, I would love for you to subscribe. I'm going to be coming on here every single week moving forward, and be sharing some tips around grief, healing, and how to move forward as a widow or widower. All right, thank you. Much love. Take care.